An expedited sentencing, that's what Diddy said. His lawyer said Sept 22, but before that was read. OCT 3 now is set in stone with filings due before. Diddy'll be asking for time served, the US for much more. Oh, but Diddy do it. Diddy do it. Diddy do it. And what's it worth? He learned he was an alternate only at the end. Now he's selling lies in book there on CNN. The law enforcement connection at UNOCT. Real estate to sell ya as he speaks for the jury. Oh, but Diddy do it. Diddy do it. Diddy do it. It's all the same to George. Okay, here we are, Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press, here at the Southern District of New York Courthouse. Today, it's Tuesday, July 8th. Now, on the U.S. vs. Sean Diddy Combs, after his 2 convictions with 3 not guilties, today at 2 p.m., there's a hearing on... There's been a development. Early in the trial, in the first week, in fact, before the trial's testimony and even opening statements began, during jury selection, we noticed that one of the prospective jurors said he worked at the U.S. office, the UN Office of Counterterrorism. And then he was asked, does that mean you work in any way with U.S. law enforcement? And he said, no. Now, I used to cover the United Nations. In fact, I still do. I write scoops daily about it. But I report on it pretty aggressively. Anyway, I know that office, and they do work with U.S. law enforcement. So it just sort of stuck in my craw that why would this juror be misrepresenting? And on a second day, they asked him more about it because it wasn't credible. He said, no, we work only with Interpol and something about the Dushanbe process. Okay, didn't think more about him because he's just an alternate. And he knew he was an alternate. Only one alternate actually made the transition to being on the jury. That was alternate 1, who took the place of juror number 6, who was ousted for misrepresenting, according to the judge, where he lived and the credibility issues raised thereby. Now, alternate 6 went on CNN right after the verdict, and he said, first he said he inflated his importance by saying, no one told us who were the jurors or who were the alternates. That's totally false. He was there, I was there. Anyone that covered the trial heard them say, you are alternate 6. Fine. Then he said that the videos that no one saw except the jurors and alternates at the time, he said, they were riveting, but also kind of tame. Now, the question was put to him, he said, the prosecution showed videos of Cassie just sitting around. The interviewer then said, you mean the defense? He said, oh yeah, the defense. So then he went out of his way to mention 350 pages of notes, which, to me, call me a cynic, I believe alternate 6 misrepresented to get on the jury, as we reported at the time. And as soon as it was over, somehow was contacted contacted CNN to mention his copious notes, possibly to sell a book. I mean, who am I to say? Who am I to say except to say it's extraordinary to me that this UN... Anyway, we'll have more on this. We've written a story. You can find it. And I think by going on CNN, all bets are out the window, honestly. It's and the whole secrecy of the trial had a lot of problems, but this is a new low. This is a new low, frankly. Now, what else? Today,
the prosecution was showing more, just Cassie just sitting around.
The defense showed that.
Defense showed that, yeah.
Wait, was it
just her sitting around not engaging in sexual activity?
Prosecution or defense?
Yes.
The prosecution, when you had to have your headphones on and otherwise,
Yeah.
What were you seeing then?
There was sexual activity, but I mean, it wasn't
really... He went on to say it was pretty tame, actually. So we decided to ask the UN a few questions. So ask the UN a few questions. One, to confirm that George works at the Office of Counterterrorism, and a few other things that you can see there. The context of this is that the UN doesn't actually allow us in, but they did say they'll answer written questions. You see, this is the UN spokesman, Stefan Dujardin, and he was asked whether he'd be answering questions.
We've also answered Mr. Lee's questions. We continue to answer the questions that he emails in, questions that he's asking. We've also answered Mr. Lee.
See, it's pretty straightforward. Here's George, UN Office of Counterterrorism, that's UNCT, and he's the contact, 201, well, you see it. Strange thing about that phone number is that it goes to a real estate. He's a real estate agent, but also he's working for the human rights at the United Nations. So we emailed, to make a long story short, we emailed Stefan. It will remain October 3rd. So the proceeding was very short. Basically said thanks. So we live tweeted it. A total of 2 tweets, by the way, compared to the hundreds on previous days. However, the key date that I saw in the schedule is that by July 11th, which is Friday, the government is supposed to put in its presentation on offense conduct, which is basically relevant conduct, which is this concept that conduct beyond the 2 Mann Act charges could be considered as sentencing. That's the government's argument. Now, there's a Supreme Court case that may be to the contrary, and there's also just the basic fairness question of if the jury said not guilty, can that conduct come into sentencing? But there's other conduct around. So we'll have to see. And the biggest question I have is whether the government's filing will be put in the docket. They basically have been not putting a lot of things in the docket in this case, so we'll just have to see.